everyone, welcome back to another video, and it's once again time to talk about game design. So, patch 7.2 really bucks a few conventions. Normally, patch day is this crazy time. You feel limited by the hours in the day, not the hours of gameplay available, which has meant that a lot of players have been a bit confused. It's not because this patch is devoid of content, it's because that content is significantly more gated than it often has been in the past. Now, gating has been the norm for narrative content for some time indeed, with the patch 7.1 Suramar campaign being unlocked on a weekly basis, just like the 6.2 Garrison campaign that happened in Tanan Jungle. A big difference though with this patch is that some of the gameplay mechanics have also been gated. Legion invasions actually start off a week after the patch dropped, and it'll be a few more weeks until a lot of the class order hall content releases as well. The result of all of this is that there's this big discussion about gating that is just taken off within the community. Now, gating really gets around one problem that the developers have had for a very long time. Players will always complete content faster than it can be created. What's the easiest way to get around this? Well, it's just to arbitrarily delay the release of content such that there's a drip feed so you know that your players have something new to log in for every week. Now, thinking along these lines makes a tremendous amount of sense with an MMO when you think about the business model. However, I think that Blizzard should take another look at their implementation. A few simple tweaks could turn what is currently content to log off and wait for into content that you can earn, something that actually motivates you to play the game. The line between these two things is a pretty thin one, but there are some subtle changes that would have a very major effect when it comes to player behavior. When something is locked behind a door that you can't open, it feels like you're being limited. However, when something is locked behind a kind of a rickety door, you're stuck in a rickety prison and it's like you're Indiana Jones. All you've got to do is find the hidden key, break out, do something badass. Knowing that you can unlock a bit of content is in itself something that's quite motivating that you'll actually work towards. Something you can actively earn versus something that is merely dispensed upon you. So I think that really is the core of the issue here. Even if it were to take just as long to earn the reward as it would to wait, the process of earning the reward involves you playing the game. That way it actually feels like there's this vast expanse of content to progress through rather than you sitting there waiting for it to be handed out. And I think that really it feels a lot better to earn something than to purely just have it be given to you. Now, my final issue with the current way it's being done is there's no real synergy between the systems. The concept of multiplicative design is a great one. It's all about having a small number of systems that have a very high level of interactivity between them. This means that they form a far greater whole, and it makes each individual system far more engaging and really just last a hell of a lot longer. The current time gating is wholly exterior to what you are doing in the game. It feels completely disconnected from the actual mechanics of the game that you're playing. There is a really great opportunity to engage players by having them earn content, and I feel like that opportunity isn't really being taken advantage of. Take any other genre of game and imagine if the core content was locked behind time rather than being behind effort. It would be quite bizarre. So how could the developers get around this in the future? How could they make more engaging systems? Well, the easy way is to just base unlocks off reputation rather than a mixture of mission tables and hard gates, as we've seen with patch 7.2. They did this very successfully with the narrative content of patch 5.1. I actually remember not liking the dailies that much, but I felt quite motivated to do them so that I could unlock the next stage of the pretty excellent storyline that they happened to be telling at the time. That was a very motivating thing. Transplanting that directly onto the narrative story unlocks in patch 7.2 would probably be something that would have worked for now and would have been effective in this patch. Now, unlocking new mechanics is a little bit harder since they can't really be based on personal progression. You can't just unlock Legion invasions for yourself only. It has been done before though. Patch 5.2's Thunder Isle had new areas of the map be unlocked based on the server's progression. Patch 2.3's Isle of Hell whatever did that in a similar manner as well. This could have been done with the new mechanics of patch 7.2 rather than just the buildings, so maybe we could have unlocked the Legion invasions by actually goading them out. Now, I think for all of this to be truly compelling, The focus on multiplicative design has to be applied to the minute-to-minute gameplay loop rather than the day-to-day one, really making the world feel more engaging and dynamic, as much as that's a massive buzzword, allowing for player expression through gameplay mechanics. I think those things are really what they need to do. I think that's really the area where World of Warcraft needs to modernize so that it feels like something from the current year rather than perhaps 10 years ago. There are, of course, a host of gotchas, potential issues for every system. Doing things based on server progression means you need to normalize player efforts so that large and small servers unlock content at a similar pace, and you're not punishing players in small servers, which might make maybe your effort feel diminished on a larger server. Additionally, this stuff would be more grindy. There'd be more content to do when you actually get down to it. Now, I'd argue that content feels less grindy when you have more interesting systems and motivations wrapped around them, as well as content rewards. But yeah, it would involve more gameplay. As always, I'd suggest that alt characters could maybe benefit from, as an example, a rep gain boost, just like with Mists of Pandaria, and things like that are probably a good way to approach alternate characters. Of course, it's also important to think about what patch 7.2 kind of is. It's basically a mixture of 6.2.3, i.e. a patch which revamps old rewards to keep them relevant, a small version of the 5.2 world content, and a small version of the 6.2 narrative content. You've probably noticed that most sort of major mid-expansion patches use new tile sets, but this one is mostly using pre-existing tile sets. My personal suspicion is that 7.2 is kind of like a bottle episode of a TV show, because much of the time and budget required to break new ground is going into maybe a 7.3 or 7.4, whichever one of those ends up actually being Argus. So it is worth bearing that in mind, but overall, when we look at the systems and we look at how they are dealing with some things, I think these arbitrary content gates are something that are not particularly deft, and I think there's actually an opportunity to use the spreading out of content as a motivating factor to get players to play the game more, rather than something that just makes you feel like you should just log off and wait till next week. So that's my thoughts on content gating. I'm dead keen to hear what you've got to think about this as well. It seems like a lot of that scaling stuff has been dealt with by the community in Blizzard, so I don't really think it's worth doing a discussion video on that, but I do find this content gating issue and bringing up some elements of multiplicative design to be pretty worthwhile instructive things. That's it for me, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.